Turkish Airlines presents Business Africa.
Opportunities, challenges and perspectives. Hello and welcome to Business Africa. I'm Indea Yoka. Here are today's headlines. Between hidden debt and a record deficit, the latest report from the Senegal Court of Auditors reveals significant irregularities. We'll discuss them in an interview. Next, we'll focus on the economic governance of Captain Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso, with an emphasis on economic sovereignty. And we'll close with Nigeria, where geologists are calling for more intensive mining exploration to reduce the importation of raw materials. A much higher public debt than expected and a revised budget deficit. These are just a few of the issues revealed in the latest report from Senegal's Court of Auditors.
Senegal is facing a financial transparency crisis. The latest report from the auditors reveals serious irregularities, public debt reaching 99.67% of GDP, well above the 74.41% reported by the previous government, and the budget deficit in 2023 revised to 12.3% of GDP compared to the initial estimated 4.9%. These figures, in addition to highlighting questionable public financial management, undermine investor confidence. The cause include unaccountable debt, opaque spending and irregular budget transfers. These practices have burdened the debt and widened the deficit, according to the report. The previous regime of Macky Sall rejected these accusations, denouncing an attempt at manipulation and promising detailed response. In the meantime, the government has suspended disbursement requests from the IMF and promised reforms, centralizing debt management and implementing strict controls on projects funded by external resources. The IMF has suspended its program while awaiting the report's analysis, but reaffirms its support for the reforms. Beyond the numbers, this crisis threatens several major infrastructure projects. Many construction sites funded through loans could be delayed or even suspended. In this context, the current government must ensure transparency and rigorous oversight to restore confidence, according to the report.
How will these revelations affect the country's economy and investor confidence? Our guest this week is Senegalese economist and financial expert Ousmane Dieng. Mr. Dieng, welcome to Business Africa. First, what is your take on this Court of Auditors report?
First, this is an exercise in good governance, as it was conducted in accordance with the law. That is the December 27, 2012 law. What stands out to me is a significant number of accounting reclassification. I'm not saying these are not anomalies. They are indeed substantial errors because they impact the reported budget deficit. It is important to recognize that Senegal's current accounting system follows a cash-based approach. However, this kind of accounting is outdated. In fact, since 2019, the WAEMU directive has given member states a 10-year deadline to transition from cash-based accounting to accrual-based accounting. If this transaction had already taken place, I am convinced that many of these accounting adjustments would have been unnecessary. The second point concerns the budget deficit. The report stated that aside from the accounting adjustments, the reverse deficit did not require additional financing because there was sufficient cash flow available. However, the report does not clarify is how these adjustments impact GDP, as GDP remained unchanged. An audit is a comprehensive process with extensive supporting documentations, and ultimately it will be up to the judiciary to assess the findings. Now, was there a deliberate attempt to conceal financial figures? Based on the report, I don't believe so.
In the absence of clarifications from the former government, could these financial revelations dampen investor confidence?
Oh yes, that's exactly why we made a formal communication to investors explaining our interpretation of the report. I am not saying the report lacks quality, but I want to put things into perspective for investors. Yes, the situation can create concerns, but there are also alternative sources of financing. Investors are capable of conducting a rational analysis and asking themselves, do I still still trust Senegal's private sector? For now, I believe the answer is yes. However, what is truly regrettable is a crisis communication. We need to move away from the sensationalism. I am not advocating for withholding information, but there is need to be a well-timed communication strategy, engaging with all financial backers, including those who have invested in Senegal, and to continue to do so. Saying that everything needs to be redone from scratch makes no sense. Right now, who is under pressure? It is the current government, because they are the ones in charge, and the Senegalese people are expecting results.
What measures are needed to restore the credibility of public finances?
What applies to businesses also applies to the state. The government must establish a robust information system and improve operational efficiency. It should also explore alternative financing mechanisms. Speaking of GDP, why are we not incorporating natural resources into our GDP calculations? Algeria did it, and history has proven them right. This is a crucial point. Then there's the debt that was transferred back to the government because banks feared it will weaken their capital reserves. Frankly, this needs to stop. Banks have the ability to securitize these loans and place them in financial market, allowing them time to recover these debts. This issue needs to be corrected as soon as possible. Finally, the well-known LBO approach, where companies take on debt to finance investments with their own funds, should be used strategically. If these companies increase in value, then their assets should be sold to pay off the debt. Financially, literacy among the population is also crucial. By promoting public savings initiatives, we can tap into dormant fund within households.
Mr. Dieng, thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Léa.
Since taking power in 2022, Captain Ibrahim Traoré has committed to achieving economic independence, a bold gamble between sovereignty and immediate challenges.
The Burkina Faso military leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, is now intensifying efforts to achieve economic self-sufficiency by reducing reliance on foreign aid and maximizing internal resources for the West African nation. As part of a broader vision shared with Mali and Niger under the Alliance of Sahel States, Traoré's government is now prioritizing agriculture and industrialization to drive economic growth. This model is based on leveraging internal resources. It has enabled the head of state and his government to prioritize agriculture. But the other key aspect is the industrialization of our production as a nation. With agriculture at the heart of the strategy, the country has now ramped up production, yielding nearly 6 million tons of cereals in 2024. Increased investment in farming infrastructure and production capacity has fueled this success. However, economic progress is inseparable from security. Burkina Faso continues to grapple with insurgencies and regional instability, prompting experts to urge a balanced approach. Personally, I would recommend further investment in territorial defense to ensure our survival. Once that is secured, we can continue developing our endogenous growth model. Despite these challenges, Burkina Faso's economy is showing signs of resilience. GDP growth is accelerating with a projected 3.7% increase in 2024. Yet structural hurdles remain, and the government faces the ongoing task of adapting its development strategy to evolving realities on the ground.
While Nigeria's soil is rich with untapped resources, the country spends $10 billion annually importing raw materials, a paradox condemned by geologists.
Despite spending $10 billion annually on importing raw materials, Nigeria has significant untapped mineral deposits. If properly exploited, these resources could transform the economy, as noted by this geologist.
If you're importing your raw materials, which you need to grow your industries, then of course you're losing a lot of revenue because you have to source dollars to get those raw materials imported. Meanwhile, you have them.
Nigeria's Bureau of Statistics reports that over 40 minerals can be found across the country. Yet despite this enormous potential, Nigeria's mineral sector contributes less than 1% to the country's GDP, according to an audit by tax and advisory firm KPMG. Illegal mining for export has also been a persistent issue.
The country's House of Representatives says an estimated $9 billion is lost to activities of illegal miners annually.
And now it's left for the government now to ensure that we independent miners have access to licenses for all these sites. And also that will create room for investors to come in, for them to sponsor the work of mining activities in Nigeria.
Last year, defence authorities reported arresting over 300 illegal miners in the country. The government has also tasked the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development with issuing mining licences to companies committed to exploring and processing the country's minerals. The goal is to ensure Nigeria benefits from its natural resources, creates jobs for its youth and reduces reliance on imported raw materials.
And that brings us to the end of Business Africa. To watch this episode again, visit africanews.com and our digital platforms. See you soon.
Business Africa was presented by Turkish Airlines.